everyone. Dre is
Hello.
here for our weekly stream on Get Resource here in the beautiful location in Quesadillas, Mexico. We're here to talk about anything around conversations about connecting to ourselves, source, and others. And we always love to open up with the question, what's alive in you, Summer?
What's alive in me is the sunshine, the excitement, the warmth, the rejuvenation. We've had so much fresh fruit and amazing tacos and things like that. So I just feel rejuvenated, I guess.
Awesome.
What's
Renew.
alive in you?
I'm excited to be on here in a new location with the sun beating on my back, water nearby. Yeah, feeling ready to get going. Like last few days, settling into the space. I always find myself feeling uneasy and discombobulated whenever I'm in a new location. So now it's like finally settling in and feeling it and feeling like I know where things are at. So it gives me that feeling of ease and just being in a new space is very rejuvenating for me too. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I noticed the sound of the pool behind you is really loud.
Yeah, it's the background noise. Yeah, I'll just mute myself when I don't speak.
Okay, well, I don't know. I think we were going to go talking about change in our lives, in people's lives, and how that can bring about maybe self sabotage as we feel a little bit unstable or unsafe in our lives. And also the concept of core negative images in relationships and what that means. What is a core negative image? And what that is the things we think but don't necessarily say out loud. Uh, like, for example, oh man, my husband's lazy. He never wipes the crumbs off of the counter. Or, geez, I know one of Andre's would be, I'm very disorganized. I'm sloppy, or different things like that. And so we're going to talk about where they come from, what ours are, and how we can work with them. Create a little bit of humor and knowledge about those core negative images and how they can become powerful allies in our relationships when we start to use them, in helpful ways.
Yeah, because behind every core negative image, there's a need, right? Like Marshall says, every judgment, every criticism, even anger, is an expression of an unmet need. And just being aware of my core negative images of myself and of other people, like Summer, helps me really to change a different course, right? It's like this idea of that people, tend to be lovers or haters, or we're allies, and it just takes one moment to turn that into enemies, and then we're against each other. It's like this safety piece, right? Where I no longer feel safe, and I want to freeze, I want to shut down, or I want to fight, or I want to fight, I want to avoid. And that's the concept of negative images, of these feelings and these thoughts that feed into each other to create this thing of like separation, that you're against me, it's me against you, right? You're wrong, I'm right, right? Power over you, I want to control you. And it's just a safety mechanism to know that by default, that's my primal nature, is I resort to that. And when I can catch my negative images, I can like, okay, what's really going on here? What's what's my needs under that when I'm saying, let's say, Summer's controlling or disorganized, what is the need behind that judgment versus just like saying and being stuck to that story, which creates more further separation. And then, what we get created is that these enemy images are from our saboteurs, right? And it's part of the saboteur contagion, where my saboteurs, my enemy images, then feel Summer's enemy images of me, and then we're duking it out now.
True. Our negative images of each other. That's how people get into divorce, right? They get into conflict. They love each other so much, and then there's this flip, this absolute reversal of what they think of each other eventually, as what they call the honeymoon phase ends. Core negative images are all those little, they start as small things, little irritations and annoyances that we don't know how to express, that we don't know how to communicate in loving ways. they just build up these irritations until we start being short and snappy with each other. So how do we navigate those core negative images? Where does CNA come from, Andre? I can't remember whose work.
Yeah, it's from Terry Real.
Terry Real, right? So it's an interesting thing to work with. You don't want to do it if you're in constant conflict, but we'll share some of our core negative images and how we think of them and how we work with them. They do relate also. Terry Real's work in core negative images also kind of mirror Shirzad Samin's work in positive intelligence and the saboteurs, which we use in our conscious communication class. Because once you know what your partner's saboteurs are, you have more compassion for that and those areas of what we might call people's weaknesses, and what your core negative images might be of them, so you can actually support them in a way that enriches their lives, but also your relationship. Did you want anything to add to that?
Yeah, just knowing that it's just part of being human. When I can name it, I can tame it, and yeah, just having awareness on, what am I speaking about, like, because everything is an attempt to meet our needs, right? And when I have enemy images, automatically the way I speak can create defensiveness in others, right? It's like, is it going to attack? It's like we're protecting each other. So just being aware of, like, yeah, when am I spewing those judgments about myself and others? And then that's a recognition to self-connect to myself. Like we talk about self-regulation, co-regulation, so that I can create some separation. I love using the analogy of, like, not being blended in as a smoothie with all those parts of myself, right? Those saboteurs where I can't differentiate. They've really taken over. Rather, I'm a fruit salad where I can see different parts of myself, and being able to have some sense of control, sovereignty over that, and guide into the right direction. So self connection, self regulation is so crucial to get resourced back to myself into that calm, relaxing state that things are safe, things are secure, and then I can see more clearly, right? That reactivity, that feeling of urgency, that's the enemy image, right? I need to fix something. I need to control something. I need to resolve something. I need to win. Then I feel better, right? So where is that coming from? And so this just starts a conversation of peeling back those layers, because one example is like around the house, let's say I judge Summer as being lazy because there's so many things around the house, and there's a part of me that always wants to keep it in perfect condition or in the same place because that creates safety for me. Then I can breathe when my space is organized. And then when it's disorganized, then I also attack Summer because I blame her for creating unease in my life, right? From creating that peace that I have in my space, and I project that onto her. So really, that projection, that judgment I have to Summer is my need for peace and ease and harmony with my space. But then if I'm saying you're disorganized, right? Like our ill intentions, so like hoping that would, have Summer empathize with me and get connected to my needs, it doesn't work that way, right? Because I'm attacking her now, and now she's going to defend herself. She's going to protect herself and shield up. So it creates the opposite of what I want to desire. And it's funny when that comes in, it's like we're no longer hearing each other anymore. So it's realization shifting out of that. Yeah. Hey Tracy, welcome.
Hi, Tracy.
All good. Yeah, you're getting ready for a sweat today. Yeah, we're sweating out right now. Yeah. We're working up a sweat right now. So cool. Glad you're jumping on, and you're excited for the next chapter. Congrats.
Excellent. Yeah. Core negative images. What do we do about that? So let's see.
Yeah.
So we have a saboteur assessment if anyone want to take you. It's from Positive Intelligence. Any one of you can take it. It's super information to have when you're in relationship, or if you have a lot of major triggers with your family members, because often you can guess what they are, and it makes it so much easier to communicate with them, to have compassion with them, and to be less triggered, actually. I myself, my top ones were a people pleaser, a stickler, which means perfectionist. Visually, I'm very much a perfectionist. which also makes me an amazing artist, at controller. And there are sometimes I avoid certain things. Those are my top ones. Andre, should I tell you what
Yeah,
yours are?
yeah. My
Yep.
top ones
What do you
is
want?
hyperachiever, and hyperachiever is one that ties their worth to success, to status, to what people think of them. It's the idea that I'll be happy when I accomplish this. The next one I'd say is my restless, which is this need to stay busy, be productive, and always doing things to feel good. And the next piece, in which is a potent combination of the three, the last one is the stickler, right? The perfectionist that needs to have things done in a certain way, right? So they're a very powerful combination with the three of them. And so where enemy images come from is when someone comes in and disturbs my intentions out of that saboteur, right? Because if I lived on my own, meditate on the mountain, I can create my own lifestyle that no one around me is disturbing me, right? It's my own like sanctuary, homeostasis. But then when you move in with someone, right, you hang around long enough, you're going to get on each other's nerves. So that's where the saboteurs they start to conflict with each other because they have different strategies to meet needs, right? So the idea is that we conflict at the strategic level, the level of how to go about getting those needs met. But then if we go a layer deeper and we speak about the needs, then we realize we're all the same because needs are universal. They're what makes us human.
Yes, our needs. Hello. Hello. Is that Amanda? Excellent.
That is Alondra. Welcome,
Alondra.
Alondra, from YouTube. Awesome.
Oh, Alondra, nice to see you. Yeah, so saboteurs. These negative images. Andre spoke about his hyperachiever. Hyperachieving's great. Achieving things is great. It's what helps him get everything done and organized. But when his schedule is so full that it doesn't include me, it becomes a problem. He gets exhausted. Oh, Elizabeth. Oh, okay. That's who that is. Amazing. Oh, there's a bus going by. Maybe I should mute myself while you talk.
You actually don't hear it. It's pretty good. But yeah, like the saboteurs, they're actually our superpowers, right? They're our strengths. It's only when they're overused. Like it's good to achieve. It's good to create in life and produce and be productive and make life something meaningful, right? It's just the hyper part of it, right? It's good to be a stickler, like organized and orderly and meticulous. But when it's just too much, it creates anxiety in others and of course judgment, right? And that really takes us out of our life-serving energy. So the saboteur assessment is a great place to start becoming aware of these parts of us, where these parts tend to turn on ourselves when we're judging ourselves for not meeting the strategy per se of that saboteur, and judging others when they get in the way of our strategies to meet our needs through these saboteurs, right? And that's where the head clashing happens.
Yeah. So one example for me is, yeah. Well, Andre would call me disorganized or whatever. Andre's very neat and tidy. He likes to clean constantly. I can barely keep up to him. And he notices when he goes away that I clean up just fine in my own time. But when he's around, he likes everything put in order. It's I wouldn't say it's to the level of OCD, but it's very orderly and tidy. And other people often find it difficult to keep up with people who are so quick at organizing. And if I'm not aware of my own self judgment, which might be, oh, I can't do it quick enough, I start to judge myself and start to feel inadequate. And so there's just some of the thoughts that we start to have in our own heads, and he might have them of me as well, which is, oh man, I do everything around here, and why she doesn't do anything at all, and she's just lazy. Um, but when we start to talk about these things openly, we start to notice where they come from. And until I met Andre, I wasn't really aware of. I kind of leave little piles of things to do around the house. It's not necessarily big piles or chaotic piles, but there are some piles for myself to get back to. And when I grew up in a quite a wealthy household. It was a 4,000 square foot home, and I could never find anyone. I felt alone. Um, And I've been in houses where people tidy everything up so it's perfect, and you don't know if you really want to like live in it. So for me, those piles really are an indicator of life to me. So are lights being turned on. And that's another thing for Andre. Is like, just turn off the lights. I'm like, no, I need light A to see, and B to feel like there's life in the house. So when I was able to get at that need of life, of having other people around me, of this sense of stuff happening, rather than this cold, clinical, perfectionistic, cleanly OCD sense, I think you kind of relaxed around that a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, like having the reason behind the way you operate, right? Um, this need for connection, this need to be assured that life is here, that the
Yeah.
space is lived in, right? And because I can relate to that, I can connect to that because that's a human innate need, because I can feel that within myself as well. Then it created more spaciousness and flexibility within my realm, right? My saboteur and my awareness now had a reason of why these things are here, rather than project a judgment and assumption of what she's doing, where I'm thinking I'm blaming Summer for making me feel unease and not creating space or peace in my space. I now have a reason why things are done the way they're being done, which creates more compassion and more grace and more patience with that, right? So it's so important to be able to talk about these things, because growing up, like, conflict is avoided and we don't have real conversations like this. And so I will hold it inside and then feel resentful, and the resentment would build up, and it would begin to leak in different ways, like giving my ex girlfriend the silent treatment, or I randomly would blow up in bursts of anger, right? And so it's like something's off because it's already coming out. Like I can only do so much, right? Holding a beach ball underneath the water. Like, I'm gonna eventually tire, right? There's days where I don't have much willpower, and it's gonna leak out, right? My true intentions are gonna leak out. So it's actually healthy to speak in a way of like, how do I speak these core negative images? Well, that's where conscious communication comes in. That's where I can own my judgments. Like, I nowadays, like when I converse with Summer, I preface I judge or I project, right? And that's just an indicator that I'm judging. I'm owning that. It's not true. It's my judgment or my projection of what's happening, right? And Summer knows that, to not take offense to it, right? Instead of me saying, you're so disorganized. Well, I say, well, babe, I judge that you got a lot of stuff out there, and you tend to stay there for a while, right? I mean, that's a judgment, right? A while, but at least it's a way forward to start having those conversations to figure out the awareness of it. Like, for example, I'm so like on it in terms of cleaning. I remember you taking an item out of the freezer to defrost it while you were on a call. I could have communicated with you, I believe, but I just decided to put that back into the freezer. And then you came back to the kitchen. You were wondering, where's this item? And because I didn't communicate with you, and I also projected that you left this out, right? That you were being lazy or disorganized or just not unaware. I had those thoughts going on in my head. So it's so healthy to be able to speak that out.
Right. We went out for dinner instead because you put it back in the freezer. Oh, that's hilarious. So curious if anyone listening has some core negative images about their boss, their mother, their whatever, or whoever. You don't have to say who it is, but what you think of other people, and we can kind of guess some other needs around that. Hyperachiever restless. For me, when Andre is so busy, what do I actually think in my head? I actually haven't thought about this before. Um,
Well, this is going to be juicy.
because I I'm aware of a lot of why you do it, right? Um, of the Asian work culture, the necessity to get ahead, especially from an immigrant family, right? It was so important for that to happen. But in my world, when I see burnout, adrenal fatigue, people who are just working themselves into heart attacks and whatever, I think to myself, oh man, like, can't you get over our cultural indoctrination? Like, why are you such a copycat? Why can't you find your own freedom or your own sovereignty? Why can't you think for yourself? Might be another one. Um, yeah, why can't you trust that who you are is enough to show up in the work that you're doing? Because and part of me is like, oh, you have so much experience and so much background, and because another thing, Andre likes to take course after course after course after course, which actually comes through with a lot of really juicy information and insight that I kind of get secondhand in a way, um, which is extremely valuable to see all the different things going on in the world and who's teaching what and all of that stuff at the same time. Um, it can be overloading for me, and sometimes for him too. He can get overwhelmed and therefore scattered as well. So lack of focus is another judgment that I might have.
Hmm. So I have a question for you.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me right now?
There you go. That's better.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a question for you in regards to, like, let's say someone is projecting their enemy images onto someone, right? Um, how would we know that that's a judgment, that's a projection of that person, or there's some truth to it?
Oh, how do you know? Well, I can ask you. Is there
Yeah.
some truth to it for you?
Truth about what? Which enemy image?
Let's say you're restless when you're busy, you're taking on lots of courses, that it might overwhelm you, that you maybe don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
This is where triggers, like if I judge him and he's done some of his own work, he can go, yeah, some of this is true for me. And if there isn't any resonance to Andre, then it's entirely mine. And for me, what part of it's mine is, why does it irritate me so much? Partly because I am not as organized. I don't necessarily take in other people's information in the same way. I kind of take it in a different way. Part of my judgment is this weird expectation that I expect him to be like me. And why would I want that? But there's an expectation that, and I think we all have it in a way, we expect other people to think and feel like we do. We're all narcissists on some level. And so I think that's a little bit of my narcissist in there. It's like, could you be more like me? Because then I'd feel more comfortable. So it's about me trying to get out of my discomfort by changing you. And I think people do that in relationship a lot. They get into stuff, they love their differences, and then once they're in a relationship, they want to change them because they're feeling uncomfortable and they don't know what to do with the discomfort in their own body, and they don't know how to communicate it. So for me, I like quality time. I like to spend time together where he's not preoccupied with the things that he's doing. And I also know, or you can speak to that, Andre, that that's actually a need of yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all those needs on the needs list is a need that I yearn to have, right? It's what makes me human. And let's say someone is, like, projecting onto me that, let's say, like, yeah, like, you're taking all this stuff and you don't trust yourself, right? Just immediately direct feedback, right? And it's easy for me to say that's a judgment, right? It is a judgment, though. How do I know it's true for me, right? And it takes some space and time for me to realize to myself, yeah, maybe I don't trust myself, right? And that's just for me to get connected to my inner resonance to know whether or not this is true. Versus, let's say, just taking that person and believing them, even though I think I trust myself, right? So there's a difference here. Is that I got to check in with myself to say, Is that true? And sometimes some people might say, well, Dre, you know what? You do this because you want to get this piece of paper to go through the door and start working with high level executives to feel worthy. I might be like, well, not so much. No, no. I just want to be more proficient and trust myself, right? That's another someone's judgment. Their judgment of me, why I take these courses, is to um, get my foot in the door with the corporate world, let's say, right? To them, that's a judgment, but to me, that doesn't resonate with me. You see that?
Mm,
So, two different judgments. How do I know what's true? Is I got to connect with my inner resonance of like, hmm, okay, and also where is this coming from too? Because the one thing I value is direct, honest, loving feedback, and I value feedback and judgments from those that know me for a long time, have seen me over a period of months and years and seen how I operate. And they can
mm,
point to examples of how I showed up, right? Versus meeting me for the first time and automatically stereotyping me. So it's so critical to be in an environment, in a community where I continue to show up and we're sacred mirrors for each other, where feedback can be presented in a way that has weight to it. Okay. Where I go from this is the humility to be able to own some of those judgments so that I can improve, right? I can't see my blind spots, though I'm sure a lot of parts of myself don't want to be seen because it wants to protect me. It's a strategy that I've used where, hey, I don't want this to be exposed because it could be an ego death, right? I would need to change, right? Or what is it? What does it make me feel or think of? Maybe I'm less than. I have these judgments of myself, right? If I were to admit that I'm not this, but actually I am this, because let's say 50 people tell me that I don't trust myself. Okay? If 50 people told me I don't trust myself, there might be something there that's truthful. So it's so key and important to have a period of time, a bigger sample data, as well as the number of people saying that type of feedback, because I can be in my head and be like, nope, 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 and create my own view of myself. And someone told me about this guy who's a former CIA agent, and I heard it from Marco, we were staying with, saying that it's actually wise to know how other people are viewing the world from their own perspective, rather than thinking that everybody's viewing it from my perspective of the world. And that's very limiting. And that can also put me in a place that's, let's say, not savory, right? Because I don't know actually what's really going on in my world when I'm not looking and putting my shoes in other people.
yeah, I love that idea of the CIA agents, right? I mean, I think, really, up until you brought positive intelligence to me, I really didn't know how people viewed me. And I struggled to understand some of the difficulties I had in some relationships. Um, and then when I started to know about my saboteurs and how and why I think the way that I do, and also how others would perceive me, I was like, huh. And this is what's so important because a lot of people will interpret people and think their intentions are manipulative or evil or underhanded or whatever the enemy image idea is. And it's really not true. People are only trying to get their needs met. Um, but when we're stuck in our own perception of reality, we can't see that. And that's when we start to label people with, uh, he's a narcissist, they're a this. And there are some extreme behaviors, I'll give you that. But every human being does what they do to get their needs met. Some type of survival perception. And in our culture, we label and diagnose people more than we are able to identify our own feelings and our own needs and how this body conduit works in relationships. Um, and whether or not we can take that feedback. And you're right, I love what you say about community and data gathering. You actually know what's going on in your world when people will give you honest feedback. In our culture, we're such people pleasers, like Canada is like, oh, so nice. Um, and then we don't actually know what's true and what's going on. People, it's just, it lacks substance. And this is when you said, in my house, to know that there was life going on. You know, I had my parents and my brother, and we had 3 golden retrievers at one point. There were people, but there wasn't any life. It was so suffocating and strangling because we had all these perceptions and judgments that no one ever spoke out loud. My parents didn't often argue in angry tones. My dad would say something like, well, you know, we're not arguing. And I'd be like, but they're not talking either. It was just silence and quiet and no interaction, no support, no laughter, no fun, no play, no life was there. And I just uh, longed for these kind of conversations we're having. So I so appreciate them.
Yeah, like imagine, around the dinner table or like family reunions that we can truly share what we think about each other. I mean, we can make it more of a softer landing, right, in a nonviolent way. Though, like to be able to like, for me to realize how my parents view me, like truly, how do they view me, right? And I have no clue. And I never had that conversation with them. I'm not sure if they're willing and open to sharing or have the capacity to. But just imagine that, right? Being able to communicate to my siblings or my family members of what we truly think and clear that so that even in relationship, that it's so easy to project this idealized Barbie or Ken, Hollywood figure onto someone. And we want to fix and control them to fit this mold of who we want them to be, right? Versus who are they really? What do you actually think of me? And then we can work through cleaning that up, right? So that we don't betray ourselves with each other. And it's challenging when there's a people pleaser there or an avoider in the relationship or even a controller in the relationship, right? Controlling everything. So it's just realizing that like, am I allowing you to be who you are in this relationship? Are you allowing me to be who I am in this relationship? Or is there an expectation to change one another? Or there's an expectation that we're not really open to sharing about this person that we're with, right? For whatever reasons. So I love community in a space where I can have these real conversations and get that feedback. Because like I don't want to be around yes men all the time, yes people all the time, right? Don't smoke up my yin yang, right? I want to be with people that tell me as it is. Like that's why I believe that in our culture we lack accountability, right? That directness in a loving way, not being disrespectful to each other, but be able to speak the truth. I call into that. Um, even
Tracy
like
has an interesting comment there, which I think is probably true for most
yeah,
people.
scared, right? I do feel fearful because I might be fearful of what they say about me. My family know me the best, right? My siblings know me the best. They've seen all sides of me, right? And it's easy for them to perhaps weaponize my past against me, right? Well, that's why you always say, Dre, you started this and you never finish. What's going to be different this time around, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I like her last comment there. Can you pop it up? This leads into a very, very interesting conversation, right? I tend to listen and trust their opinions and lose myself. Yeah. How can we maintain our own sovereignty in that, right? Not take on other people's projections. Like, how do we sift through the muck of that? How do we know what our inner resonant truth is about who we are in alignment with our own purpose so that we don't take on other people's projections? We only take on what is actually true about ourselves. That's a really good question. This does come with self-awareness of what thoughts we think, how we've been taught. The saboteur assessment is a really good start so that we know. And of course, coming into communities, which by the way, Andre and I have opened a Facebook group for conscious co-creating relationships. Find us on Facebook if you want to know more about everything that we talk about. We're going to be doing a lot of information in there. And Tracy says, I think they come from a place of judgment and not from a place of love. That's true. So many people do come from a place of judgment and they think it's love, but it's not. And so this discernment really comes about as we practice some of Marshall Rosenberg's principles in nonviolent communication and merge it with some work in the saboteur world and inside out, that knowing our bodies as this conduit to truth, because we haven't been taught to trust the energy that runs through our body. Oh, emotions, stuff them down, try to fix them, try to do something else for them, rather than truly treating them as the GPS for our life that they really are. um, there's some really twisted concepts that we've had. And so the key piece is knowing what's a judgment and what allows us to identify and feel our life serving energy, which is really tied back to our needs. I'm going to
Yeah.
over to you.
Yeah. The discernment of judgment, right? Because some judgments has truth to it, right? Judgment exists for a reason. It's a mental faculty to assess the situation for survival. It's definitely needed, right? No, it's like this ability to own it. Like if I can own my judgment, I can be, please correct me. I judge X, right? Which allows the person to be like, no, that's not me. You know, it's their sovereignty to choose to receive it or not. And for me to own that is my judgment coming from that place on my projection, right? And I agree with you, Elizabeth. Like my family, Asian culture, I'd say, is very critical, and it's your way of showing love, right? It's a way to protect me, to strengthen me, to make me successful, and it's like telling me what I'm missing, what my gaps are. It just happens that my love language is words of affirmation, so I took it so seriously and end up living out what they told me who I was not, right? And so just realizing that of like, okay, um, that definitely that's why I didn't want to share anything about my life because I was scared. I was scared as well that they would use that against me because every time I would share something going on in my life, this is my projection that they would pick holes in it. Though knowing now it was a way to express love and care, right? Culturally, that is. Though imagine if I was in a community where we had the conscious communication skills to give each other that feedback in a way that if you receive the feedback and you're triggered, okay, great, let's work through that trigger. Let's work through it so we can clean through it, right? And I also relate to like going to, the family outing or my parents and they give me an opinion. It's as if like their opinion weighs way more than mine, and then I start doubting myself and I believe theirs. Because growing up, I wasn't told to have needs. I didn't have my own feelings. I didn't have my own life plan laid out for me. It was my parents' life plan laid out for me, which meant that I'm not good enough and that I don't trust myself because I got to learn from them. My parents are what I should trust. What should they tell me, right? So then I betrayed myself. And that's okay because I just didn't have the awareness. Well, the work here is know thyself, knowing what gives you your life certain energy, knowing who you are, your values, your principles, your makeup, your blueprint, so that you do have the discernment where if you receive a strong opinion from someone that you love, that you're able to not take it in, right? If it's not true, right? It's not inner resonance because we're not talking about taking everybody's opinion in. We're going to use discernment, right? Gathering what's feedback that's relevant versus what's not, without betraying myself and who I am. And the second thing is I always have a choice who I want to hang around with. If I'm hanging around with people that is always cutting me down, talking down on me, and it's not nourishing whatsoever.
You muted yourself.
Yeah, and it's my choice to take myself out of that situation, right? So there's many different angles here. But just knowing that I'd rather put myself in a situation where, or in a community or group, where we're raising each other up, we're giving each other feedback so that we can become more whole, right? I want feedback to highlight my blind spots, and the way it's communicated is well received, right? Versus like, no, I don't want this because you're provoking me, you're making me defensive, you're triggering me, right?
Right. So how then do we, because they brought up a really good point, like if it's family members, how do we navigate that? Because they can be judging us, they can be doing those things, but we really, most of us anyways, still want to have a relationship with our parents or with our family members. So although perhaps we can know that negative judgment's not ours, it's still painful. It still hurts to know that others can't see their blind spots and are often projecting different things on us. They call it scapegoating. A lot of us can experience that in different ways. And how do we honor ourselves to find the support that we need to shift that and feel safe? So what is, yeah, Elizabetha is all the way far away. It's not in our culture. I can't do this with my friends and not with my family. No, some cultures are different. In Canada, we don't tend to do it here either. It was actually in India, of all places, when I lived there, when I was 24 years old, there was a group of people. And they all said, okay, everybody, go around the circle and tell this person two things you really like and admire about them, and one thing that annoys you or that irritates you. And I thought to myself, holy shit, people actually say these things to each other. I was like, oh my God. And I was so nervous and so scared. And at the same time, I was like, wow, wouldn't the world be a different place if we did this? And you're right, Elizabeth, that does need to be in a container, a different culture, to be able to do it. And as we're in that culture, we start then to see our family and our parents a little bit differently. And as we start to feel safe in ourselves, we start talking to them differently. And then they feel the sense of compassion coming from you. And then they kind of wonder what you're doing. People then become attracted to that over time, especially as we learn to keep our boundaries. If some older people, perhaps there's dementia, there's different things that can be quite violent. And so we need to keep enough space to stay connected with our truth. And that's okay. We can create as much space as we need from the people that we choose to be with and the people we choose to stay connected with, to see how the dynamic shift over time. It's not a quick fix. It's a very dynamic, cultural, worldwide dis-ease, I guess I might even call it.
Yeah, for me, I bring a lot of compassion, grace, and patience with it. At the stage right now with my family, I'm more kind of like a fly in the wall. Um, I'm not so quick to rush to prove myself anymore or to share what's really going on in my life. Only, only when there's an invitation. Only when there's an interest to know what's going on, then I share, right? And I just leave it until they're more interested to go deeper along on it. Mostly, I come with a space of like just being here. I'm happy to be in their presence. I'm happy to be having family dinners with my mom, dad, brother, and sister. I'm just grateful for that time, right? And of course, I always yearn to have a deeper connection with them. But at the same time, I know there's some challenges along the way that I'm working through currently. One big thing is the language barrier. To speak Vietnamese, and my Vietnamese is not so great. And also the level of awareness. I love how Elizabeth mentioned about that you're the little one, right? And you're not an adult in their eyes. I also get the sense of my judgment that I'm always going to be their son, right? And there's a hierarchy perception there that I'm okay with. Though I know there's times where I'm just myself and my dad will come out and ask me what's going on in my life or ask me for a particular opinion, right? And when I'm coming across from a place of like, this is how it is and this is how I feel versus like, oh, I'm going to try to prove my point here, then it definitely shifts the dynamic. Yeah. So this isn't a dynamic where I'm doing the work per se, and I judge that they're not doing the work. And I'm coming in, being the sage and just more holding that space. Like I find it like my responsibility to take that first step because I'm aware of these skills. I'm learning these skills. So it's got to start somewhere. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Well, I'm going to be that change, right? I choose into because that's where it starts.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Elizabeth, and I'm so excited because you're starting our conscious communication class on Monday. If your family sees you as the little one, how much of that resonates as true? And maybe the questions might be, do you feel like you still play small? How much of that is or definitely isn't how you see yourself? Little ones, what? They're reliant on others. They don't take charge, maybe. Some of those other types of ideas. And then you can go, okay, maybe some of that is true. And not to blame or judge or anything. It's like, no, that's true. And I can breathe into and accept that as true in my life right now. And as soon as we see it and accept it, it starts moving. It starts shifting for us. And then we show up differently in our family. And because we show up differently in our family, they start to see us differently as well. Yeah, so that would be the invitation. Again, that's a core negative image they have of you. How much of that, what did you say there? Yes. Okay, I play small. Okay, so that's where you get to start playing in that. Okay, if I play small, what would it be like? And you're angry. Ah, nice awareness. So playing small and being angry that you play small. So what's your body reaction if you were to play big? If you were to express and be out there and to take charge? Is that maybe really scary? So there's lots of ways to be able to play with these things, and anger really is this defense mechanism for other more vulnerable feelings. And yeah, some cultures are a little harder to get under. And what did you say there? And it's the same at my workplace. Yeah, we tend to recreate the same environments around us so we can keep going, wait a sec, why am I doing this? How am I showing up that creates this experience? Oh, so at work they see you as the little one as well. All right. So I wonder how you can play bigger at work and in and around your family. And we'll get to explore some of that and where that anger comes from. It's scary to do something different. So, you're yelled at. Yep. People are raising their voices. They're irritated and annoyed with you. I feel my body can't sustain. The yelling, you mean? When the yelling comes in, it feels like too much? Yeah, let us know. Andre.
Yeah, I can see how the projections of people can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like this energetic like box. Like we always say, judgment blocks the energy, and it's a box that's placed around me, right? Where like no matter how positive I am or how strong mentally I am, if I'm in an environment that sees me as small, eventually I'm going to start playing small in their eyes, right? It just becomes that pattern, and then this pattern of how I am translates to every relationship that I'm in, right? It's just habitual. I'm recreating the type of relationships without being aware of like, okay, what's happening here, and it can be tricky, right? To be in a situation like family and work where I didn't choose my family, I didn't choose my work colleagues, right? And there's a particular image that's being placed onto me, an enemy image per se, right? And so, like for me, I just lessen my time with my family if that's the case, right? For work, there's got to be a decision where, it's affecting my mental health, and I need to look for another job, another workplace that's more healthier, that sees me in a better light, right? And to also find a community where I can start practicing who I am, my vulnerability, sharing, without being judged or fixed or given advice, so I can truly see myself. That's how I started my journey, was in a place where I lived in my head and didn't know who I was. I started to practice being with those people that cared about what I wanted to share, right? Just building that muscle and hearing myself. And then I can build layers from that. And then I build more conviction in who I am. Because, yeah, totally, I had no sense of authenticity growing up. I had to belong. And now, I'm going on the journey of coming back to myself and who I am. And then showing up as that person wherever I am. I'm the same person, right? That's the work. It's like, how can I show it more of who I am. And in order for me to do that, I got to know who I am to begin with. And it's nice to have that practice, right? Because like I can read a book or take a course, but then all of a sudden you put me in a work scenario or family scenario, it's like Jedi level training right away, picking the very hard difficulty. So that's not fair to me, right? I'm gonna set myself up for failure. So how do I set up myself up for success? Is in practicing in these spaces that we create. So then we kind of get used to it, and then we're surrounded by people that see us in that light. So that self-doubt comes in and be like, wait a minute, no, that's not true. I am that person. There are people that like me for who I am. See? Sometimes the mind needs evidence, right? Though if I'm just in a negative environment, then it's going to be super tough.
I'm smiling because Kathy just said hola. We're here in Bucerias with Kathy and Mark are our friends, and they're on a bike ride. I don't know how you're YouTubing or Facebooking right now on your bike ride. And Elizabeth, I just wanted to acknowledge you. It's convenient for them at work for me to be the small person. Oh, it's convenient to them, and I accept it. So I have some space and peace. When I played big, I suffer consequences. And I noticed that you said you had an insight that you see your body as weak, or maybe you see it weak and or small. I guess small people are also perceived as weak. So this is the mirror of our relationships, our relationship with our bodies, our relationships with others, with source and ourselves. They're always mirrored. And I'm curious if it's really true if your body's weak. A lot of people also think their eyes are weak, and they're not. They're really strong. And so these are all the type of beliefs that we explore, that we look at, that we start to really check in if it's true, if it meets our life-serving energy. Because as we think ourselves to be weak or small, we get depressed. The neurotransmitters do all sorts of things, and we can start, getting sick. A lot of people pleasers, as who is it? Who am I thinking of?
Gabor Mate.
He does all the work with Gabor Mate. I mean, he's been doing the work for a long, long time. And he really well explains how our people pleasing, the way we think about ourselves, the way we play small and acquiesce to other people actually creates autoimmune disorders and all of these things in our body. We have a relationship with our body, and we can speak to our body about what's going on, because all of the symptoms in our body just reflect our outside relationships. There's another mirror we can play with.
So I love this conversation. Inviting you all to start like playing with these ambient images, like even with self, with others, start catching those judgments. Oh wow, what am I thinking about my partner or my family, right? We're
or my body.
My body. Yeah.
People think of their enemy, their body is their enemy when they get sick.
Start like having awareness, and with that awareness, we can start peeling back the layers underneath that and going deeper to the needs, right? Yeah. So
Yes, feelings and needs. There is. We have some resources. A lot of people don't know what their feelings or needs are. They think it's flaky and fluffy, but those are the things that we need to start talking about. It doesn't serve us to keep all of these things secret. We stay stuck in patterns that aren't helpful. So if you don't have them yet and you want some feelings and needs inventories, just DM us, put a comment below with your email or your Facebook Messenger, and we can send them to you. We have them on our fridge in every room and every part of the house. Our vocabulary is growing, but I can always get better.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, beautiful to...
Oh, and of course, join our Facebook group.
Yeah,
we'll put
and
them
the
all
Facebook group
well.
is Get Re-Scourced, Group for Conscious Co-Creating Relationships. Join our Facebook group. And also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Get Re-Scourced. We're here every Friday at 12 p.m. Mountain with a conversation, anything around getting reconnected, right? Resource back to ourselves, source, and others. And really, why we do this work is freedom, right? To be free from the inside out. It's freeing ourselves from those emotional and mental insulating patterns that keep us stuck and trapped, right? In separation rather than connected, because we're human beings, right? We're wired to connect. We're wired to co-regulate. That's part of our makeup. So let's do this together because I can't see all myself unless I'm in relationship with another outside of me. And when I can be in a relationship with someone that's healthy and has the tools to be able to communicate in a way I can receive it, then I can start that work, right? To come back to myself and really practice that authentic life, right? Coming back home to myself so we can walk each other home, as Ramdas says.
Yeah, walk each other home. And communities and tribes, they didn't need psychologists. They didn't need people like that because they were connected. They were interrelated. They all cared about each other's well being. And this is what we believe is
Yeah.
possible. So,
Yeah.
till next week,
Ciao.
everybody.
Peace and one love.
Ciao.